All right, recording. We're all good. All right. I'd like to apologize in advance for the quality of my webcam. I'm doing the best with what I've got. All right. Hello. My name is Jared Bettez, and today I will be introducing my idea to implement tidal turbines as a source of renewable energy in coastal regions. We'll be covering the issues which designs until now have run into, the solutions we've proposed for each, and the expected budget for the project. The ocean floor hosts an immense variety of creatures, ranging from bacteria and algae all the way to larger animals like crabs and fish, each contributing to a delicate balance. Between shipyards, boats, and trash, these ecosystems are continually being threatened and destroyed. As mankind expands and looks for different sources of energy and food, more and more of coastal areas are adapting land and augmenting it with offshore rigs. This machinery is known to have a negative impact on wildlife. Some installations cut off migration channels, remove breeding grounds, or even permanently damage nearby marine animals. Ships relying on sonar, high frequency underwater drills, or even small fishing boats can create harmful noise pollutions that can threaten animals from as far as 3,000 kilometers. A publication from Ocean Care states, as is the case for humans, extremely loud sound may cause hearing damage in marine animals. This is a grave problem for the many marine creatures that depend on their hearing for communicating, sensing danger, finding a partner, and hunting prey. To seek a new source of green energy without understanding the damage it can cause to these creatures would eliminate all of the benefits of renewable energy. But large wave generators and hydroelectric dams have a history of neglecting their effect on wildlife. The ocean has always been a hostile environment for long-standing machinery. Whether it be the corrosive nature of saltwater or the powerful, turbulent forces of the currents, damage is nearly guaranteed to anything that hasn't been designed to resist these forces. Corrosion is an extremely common issue for boats and harbors, meaning most surfaces need to be painted in a waterproof coating to prevent the metal underneath from being destroyed. For tidal barrage systems, wave generators, and any other ocean-based power source, corrosion prevention is always first priority. Bailey Rodriguez, an author for the Sciencing newsletter, shares saltwater corrodes metal 5 times faster than freshwater does, and the salty, humid ocean air causes metal to corrode 10 times faster than air with normal humidity. Um, Finally, between coal burning facilities, gasoline powered vehicles, the world is designed around fossil fuels. For renewable sources of energy like solar and wind, finding enough funding to become a competitive source of clean energy is almost impossible. This inability is compounded when discussing tidal turbines, as the energy source is nearly unprecedented and practically unheard of. Potential investors would much rather invest in a more fruitful form of energy production, such as the immensely dense sources like nuclear and coal-based power plants. As such, there has been very little improvements in the field of tidal turbines. In the words of Dave Levitin, professor at the Yale School of Forestry and Environmental Studies, in my opinion, the biggest issue is the failure to price carbon. As long as we refuse to internalize the cost of greenhouse gases, then we're playing on an unlevel playing field. In order for us to remain eco-friendly, it will feature a low RPM. Okay. In order for our design to remain eco-friendly, it will need to feature a low RPM, have a small footprint, and be continually observed for any adverse effects. Rotations per minute, RPM, needs to be regulated because as the frequency of rotations increases, the noise producing variation and oscillations will also increase. It's similar to how a misaligned tire is more noticeable on the highway than while driving through a parking lot. Lower RPM also means less strain on the machine. We need to maintain a small footprint. Doing this would entail scouting sites where the ocean floor is clear of fragile animals like sponge and coral, ensuring that the turbine blade is clear of any nearby geography and deep enough to avoid passing boats, and being able to remove the turbine with minimal lasting effects on the environment. Finally, we need to continually observe any areas where our turbines are placed in order to monitor their effects on viable animal habitat, track and examine animal deaths to ensure that they were not killed by the turbine, and be able to see any potential detriments brought about by the machinery. There are many options available commercially to prevent salt water from corroding metal. However, most of these options are either too expensive or too weak to be used underwater. In order to rectify this, we'll be working with a nickel tungsten alloy. This alloy is strong and resilient, but expensive due to the high melting point of tungsten and subsequent difficulty in production. To combat the price, we will be producing the alloy ourselves for use throughout our designs. Being able to use this alloy in a cost-effective manner will help our designs to be strong enough to resist the currents and resilient enough to avoid being corroded by salt water. Finally, in order to get a foothold in the global market, our design should be easy to maintain, have a streamlined manufacturing process, and be rapidly deployable. Easy maintenance can be attained by allowing for the turbine head, containing a majority of the complex machinery, to be completely separated from the turbine base. Being able to remove the head from the body means that the turbine can be removed from the water for maintenance without needing to lift the unnecessary extra weight present in the body. This has the added benefit of also avoiding situations requiring maintenance to be done by divers, as this can drastically reduce speed and efficiency. The overall expected price of the first stages of turbine development is $152,270. The raw material required to design and construct the turbine are the first purchases. Tungsten, costing a substantial $330 per kilogram, will cost around $15,000, with the remaining metals costing around $10,000. In order to move our prototypes to optimal locations, we'll need to enlist the services of a heavyweight barge with a crane. This can be done for fairly cheap. However, continued use should prompt something more reliable than rental ships. For now, I predict that the barge will cost around $16,000. Next to the experts. Having a marine behavioral expert on our team will greatly increase our capabilities in monitoring our environmental impact, while having a wind generator expert will allow us to build on a field of renewable energy that has been heavily funded and pioneered. Together, these two staff positions should account for roughly $40,000. A majority of the cost present in tidal turbines is obtaining the land and licensing required to test the product. As such, this contributes more than 30% of our total expenditures. In total, land and licensing will cost $45,000 for 3 different sites. Next, we have general wages for any extra work. This is separated into both manufacturing cost for those who are building the turbines, and then the general wages for staff required in observation and deployment. The total for these two is roughly $25,000. As far as development goes, this cost isn't that high. I've tried to keep things fairly cheap so that we could get a product capable of making money before we spent exorbitant amounts on a potentially catastrophic product. But also these prices are heavily subject to change, as most of them are predictions and land costs can vary. To conclude, tidal turbines are a product with great potential, Every issue present with previous iterations can be resolved through the adaptation of modern design practices, and I believe that once the product becomes commercially available, it'll be capable of not only making money, but also supporting our industry in residential areas through yet another clean energy alternative. This has been Jared, Bettez, and thank you for your time.